White House has drawn up plans, we're told, to retaliate against Iranian-backed militants in the Middle East following that drone attack that killed 3 American soldiers in Jordan earlier this week. This as a talk of a possible ceasefire in Gaza is raising hopes. Well, joining me now to discuss all of this is former British Army Colonel Hamish de Bretton-Gordon, OP. Good morning to you, Hamish.
Hi, good morning,
Thanks
Julia.
so much for joining us. Let's talk about what's happened with that drone attack, though. We know 3 US service personnel were killed in that attack on Monday night. Iranian-backed militia. It's always Iranian-backed militia, it seems, whenever we hear any stories going on in the Middle East right now. We're told that Joe Biden and his team in the White House have been looking at retaliation. But this is a very, very tricky tightrope for him to walk, isn't it? And so show power, show force, show willingness not to sort of put up with this sort of thing by America, revenge the killing of 3 soldiers. Also, not basically lighting the spark that could see the whole Middle East go up. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, absolutely, Julia, as you say, it's a really tricky position. But Iran is the axis of evil. They are behind everything that's happening in the Middle East at the moment. They train, fund and arm not only Hamas, the Houthis and Hezbollah, but also these militias. The Islamic Iraq Revolution, who probably carried out the attacks on the Jordanian US base. Also, the Islamic Revolutionary Guards, who are the Iranians who are sort of command and control behind this. Now, these militias have attacked US bases over 170 times since the Hamas invasion of Israel on the 7th of October last year. So it's essential that the US does do something, but as you say, not pour further fuel on a really tricky situation. So I expect there will be some precision, very directed attacks, probably against the leadership of these Islamic Revolutionary Guards, as they did when they took out Qasem Soleimani, who was the Al-Quds leader back in 2020. I expect they will hold back from perhaps taking on Iranian ships that are potentially taking missiles to the Houthis. And ultimately, they will no doubt look at, but at the moment hold back on attacking potential sites in Iran itself. And of course, the other key element to this is the nuclear element. And I think reports that you covered probably last week that the Iranians have enough highly enriched uranium to make at least 12 nuclear weapons. So a very, very tense, difficult time, but let not be under any illusions at all that the Iranians are the ones doing this. And of course, in the background, you sort of see the DNA of Putin just encouraging, I expect, because the more deflection he can have from his atrocities in Ukraine, the better.
Yes, every day we're not talking about Ukraine. Yeah. Can I ask you, when we're told constantly, Vladimir Putin's fingers are all over this, in what way? I mean, is he funding this? Is he, what actually input is he having on what the Iranians do?
Well, there are 2 things, Julia. First of all, he wants to deflect Western military aid and support away from Ukraine. There is no secret that the Iranians are providing the Russians with a lot of military hardware, especially these Shahed drones, hundreds, thousands of them that the Russians are using to attack Ukraine. So absolutely, it's his interests. But Iran itself, they are absolutely the axis of evil. And, this is an Islamic thing that they are pouring petrol on. So it's such a delicate situation. I know Trump yesterday was saying we're on the edge of World War III, but he would sort it out if and when he comes into power in January next year. So that sort of rhetoric is probably not helpful. But there's an awful lot of things going on in the world at the moment. Leaves a lot of cool heads. But unfortunately, these are perpetuated by Iran and these Islamic terror groups, and we must try and neutralize them in order that there is a peace that everybody wants in the Middle East as soon as possible.
In every single area of the Middle East where we're looking at sort of, where the spark could turn into a full conflagration, it is Iran that's behind it. Let's talk about some hope, though, that there is a ceasefire deal to be had between Hamas and Israel. Now, Israel have always said, there is no ceasefire, there is no peace without the return of the hostages. Some 130 hostages still being held. Who knows whether Hamas actually still have control of some of these people, or if they're all still alive. We know some were injured. What do you make of the possibility of a... Geez, apologies, sorry. Do apologise, everyone, for a 45-day pause in fighting and release of hostages. Sorry.
Well, Julia, I, like everybody else, hope that this will come to fruition. Everybody wants a killing stopped on both sides. It is clear that Hamas have been written down considerably by the Israeli action. We also know that the Hamas leadership are living in, some luxury in Gaza. Now, Gaza is leading on the negotiations here. We understand, the Israelis, Palestinians, and Americans are part of it. So it would be what everybody would desire if Hamas gives up the remaining hostages. We hope it's 100 plus, but who knows what it is at the moment. And if that would then enable, the aid to get to all the innocent Palestinians in Gaza who are kept, used as human shields by Hamas, and they're the people really suffering. And then with that ceasefire, hopefully, then there can be negotiation for a much longer peace. So, yeah, like everybody in the world, I'm really hoping that we can get a peace here.
Yeah.
But as everybody knows, it's all about the hostages. Hamas gives up the hostages and they'll get their 45-day ceasefire.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing I find extraordinary. The people are still marching on streets of London every Saturday. No mention of this. Like, if you want peace for the people in Gaza, there's a really simple route map for that, but they don't seem to be calling for it. Hamish de Bretton-Gordon, thank you very much indeed. Thank you for talking while I coughed. Much appreciated. Really appreciate you joining us, as always, your expertise and your experience in this part of the world as well.